Hi, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. I am your host, Dr. Saran Nataki. Thank you for joining. Welcome to Power 365 Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. This podcast will address issues ranging from what is a phenomenal woman? Are you enough? Community service, paying it forward, the manifestation of dreams with words and action, the power in being a woman, the men who support phenomenal women, fashion, and much more. Stay tuned. So, today I have the honor of sharing time and space with my dear friend, Dr. Shanee Porter. Dr. Porter is an obstetrician gynecologist, and she is also a wife and a mother. And she's here to share with us about her journey at arriving to who she is today and her phenomenal self. So welcome,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Porter.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so honored to have you here on my show. So the first question that I ask everyone who comes to participate in this interview with Phenomenal Woman Wednesday is how do you define a phenomenal woman?
So, the way I define a phenomenal woman is someone who understands their true purpose and why they're here and knows how to really tap into their spiritual self and then not being afraid to go for it. Um, in addition, I also define a phenomenal woman, someone who's really true to themselves, who's able to give to others, to their friends, to their family, without the sense that they won't also receive their own blessings. So,
So unselfishly
yes,
and
unselfishly.
from an authentic place.
Right, correct.
Okay, awesome. So, one of the things that I know as women, we don't come into this world already knowing who we are. So we have to go on a journey to really come to that place where we finally acknowledge that we have unique talents and traits and something unique about us as individuals that will really um, allow us to provide a best benefit to the world. And so, one of the things that I'm hearing you say is someone who is connected spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always perceived yourself as being connected spiritually, or is there a point in time at which you really began to acknowledge or nurture that connection maybe more so, or grow in that place?
I don't I don't think I always knew that I was, so connected with myself spiritually. I do know that I've always been a dreamer in a sense. So as a child, I always dreamed big. I never um, I would never limit the possibilities of where I saw myself going. And I would sometimes, well, in particular, there were times in my life I remember distinctly receiving a message of my next position in life and the next thing, if it was being on the cheerleading squad or whatnot, I would envision it and I would, you know, it would resonate with me and then I would just go for it. So I do know that I've always had that sense of understanding of my true desires, and it wasn't always in line with what was going on around me. My childhood was um, it was very colorful. Definitely had a lot of great memories, but there were also some things that weren't so great. And even in those times of difficulty, I could always sort of, it sounds cliche, but sort of see the light and see something better for myself. And then I would just gravitate towards that. Um,
Okay, yeah. So I can certainly relate to what you're saying. So we've talked about this before in our conversations about like what you're describing are like the almonds in life.
mm-hmm.
The book The Alchemist
Mm-hmm.
is one that actually my cousin had been on me to read it, and I kept delaying, and she said, "You'll read it when you're ready."
Mm-hmm.
And I finally did read it, and in that book, it's basically about the journey of this shepherd,
Mm-hmm.
and this shepherd is on a journey to his riches, And along the way, he receives these omens that really kind of direct and guide and, um, you know, provide his path for him. And the omens in life are the things like what I'm hearing you talk about. When you're paying attention, they really kind of direct and guide you.
Right.
So you're a medical doctor, and obviously you had to go through some training to get there. And there's a point at which you decided, this is what I'm going to pursue. Did you have any omens along the way? Things that occurred to really let you know that this was where you should be headed to, something that you should pursue for yourself?
I did. If I really look over my life and try to determine how I came to where I am today, I always go back to a time, and I was literally in the car with my mother in the back seat, and I just had this really strong desire as I'm thinking about what am I going to do. And you often get that question as a child, what are you going to do? And I just remember this desire to want to be involved with reproduction and delivering babies. That was all I knew. I didn't know that meant being a doctor. I remember we lived in these apartments, and there was a cat in the neighborhood, and we all knew that the cat was pregnant at the time. And I did everything possible following this cat. I would follow this cat around, every day. My mother's like, would you still leave that cat alone? Leave that cat alone. And ultimately, she delivered through the night, obviously, to protect her young. And then I was just so excited with watching her care for the young. And so that just sort of gave me confirmation, just that joy. It was something that I really couldn't describe. And lifestyle issues definitely was also something I learned growing up. So that would, lend more to prevention and medicine. And I had unfortunate circumstances in my childhood where my mother lost both of her siblings to the AIDS virus. And we knew, they were wonderful, great people that I actually really enjoyed being around. But unfortunately, they just made some bad decisions in their life, and that lifestyle led them down this path. And being so close to that, seeing things that, as a child, I was exposed to certain things. It taught me sort of what not to do. It also taught me how to not be judgmental. So, I think as a physician, you do have the luxury of really getting to know very personal things about individual decisions that they may have made, and really helping them through those. And I think for myself, having the opportunity to have my own loved ones go through things in their life that, I'm sure they weren't excited about and they weren't proud about. And it helped me to really just maintain my humility, and also understanding of, of what not to do. And then from that point on, it was really just exposing myself to the medical field, working as a candy striper, getting to walk around the halls, even if it was just passing out water to patients, just the way that I felt being in that hospital and being able to provide for them.
But it was something within you that had the desire.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you had the first omen was, that cat. Right? So the cat and really just wanting to, just having an interest that you really couldn't explain about wanting to help that cat deliver its kittens and bring life into the world.
Right.
And then so, maybe another one of your omens was the desire to want to become a candy striper.
Right.
And so, and when you were there, did you feel any connection, or what did you think about your experience as a candy striper?
I felt very comfortable, number one, being in the hospital. There's the way the hospital feels, the way it smells, not everyone really enjoys that, being around sick people. But I looked at it more.
Felt at home.
I felt at home. I felt like I was giving a service, if it was a smile, delivering a flower, or wheeling them back down to their car so they can leave the hospital. Just being a part of that process, I definitely felt at home. It wasn't like I was watching the clock. It was like, is there another patient I can go deliver water to? It was really just confirming, like, this is a place that I feel comfortable and safe.
And the other thing I'm hearing you say is that even though you had some challenges with, having experienced the loss of loved ones to HIV and but in not judging, it created a sense of it awakened compassion within you.
Absolutely.
So you had compassion, you had the desire, you felt at home. And so when you were on your journey toward medical school, let's fast forward, you go to college, you decide, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go to medical school. Was it easy? Did you just apply? You got in, and it was like, I'm here, and I'm here for it.
Accept me.
How did that work? How did that happen? Because I'm asking because, there are people, and it's not just with respect to medicine, but in life. We have goals. We have in us a passion or a desire to pursue a certain goal, and sometimes it seems like it's way over there across the street, and like, how am I going to get from here to there? So fear imparts, and we back off of it.
Absolutely.
Or there are obstacles, and we figure out a way over them. Or as we go along the way, there are, there's doors that open, and we take advantage of them. Tell me a little bit about what that looked like for you.
So as I went through my undergraduate career, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I really want to go to medical school. I didn't have the best grades right off the bat, so immediately after graduation, I enrolled again into another institution, and I sort of worked to improve my grades. And then the time approached that, okay, well, now it's time to really bite the bullet, and it's time to apply. And
so this was like a post-bac program.
This was actually even before post-bac. This was just, I attended another university to take I created my own post-bac, you could say. And so I did well, got my straight A's that year. And so now I'm ready to apply for medical school. But I started making excuses for myself. I started thinking of alternative options. No one told me I had to make an alternative plan, but this was my own thought. And it came from just fear, really. And so speaking to my now husband about, I went to the PT school today and met with a physical therapist, and I think I'm going to apply for PT school. And then the next week I went to PA school, and I think I'm going to. And so he just asked me one day, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to be an OBGYN. He goes, well, just go and be an OBGYN. And it's so simple, the way he said it. And I thought, like, why am I not just going to be an OBGYN? So I went ahead and I applied to medical school, and things weren't looking so great during the application process. I was being waitlisted here, waitlisted there. And so he found this post-bac program in Irvine, and he said, well, why don't you just apply for that, just in case, as a backup plan. Well, although I was afraid to apply to medical school, I kind of felt like, well, I don't want to do a post-bac program. I think in my mind, I'm thinking I already did that. So sort of, I don't know, not good enough.
It was going backwards.
Right. And then he said, you should just do it. I think you should just do it. And that was one of the best decisions I ever made. So I applied to the post-bac program, and I was accepted, not realizing that was a pretty competitive program as well. And they basically, took you through the application process again, had you take more classes, and it was really the growth that I needed to succeed. And from there, I got accepted to their medical school and did really well. So it was definitely a learning process, and I think it was something that I really needed. So I have to thank him for that.
Awesome. Now, while you were in medical school, I was in school as well, working on my doctorate, and I watched you. So I watched you go through that process, and I remember you sharing with me that you were performing really well, and you were performing. You were surprising yourself at how well you were performing, and what do you think that was? What do you connect or attribute to that? Is it because you feel like the curriculum just wasn't very challenging, or you just really applied yourself, or both, or it was just one of those omens for you?
So one thing I wanted to mention is why was I surprised that I was doing so well, right? Like, I'm here, I was accepted. Why not? Why can't you do so well? And I think part of it is my background, and I was a non-traditional student at the time, and one of the first to graduate from college, let alone medical school. And I was pregnant as well. So, so as I was applying to medical school, let me backtrack. When I was in the post-bac program, as I was entering, I found out I was pregnant with my son. And I was so driven at the time, and my husband and I were so driven that it never dawned on us that this is something like a setback. This is just something we're going to do. Now we're going to do it with the child. And that's what we did. And I feel like when I was pregnant with my son, I was actually empowered in that process. I felt stronger than I ever felt. I felt more intelligent than I ever felt. And I just put myself in a place of positivity, and it really sort of catapulted me to this level. And I mentioned before what I think a phenomenal woman is, and it's when you realize what your purpose is. And I truly believe I was on the path to my purpose. And because of that, I had this power I'd never felt before. This intelligence I'd never even appreciated about myself. And so, as you know, in my classes, studying was so exciting to me. I could spend 8 hours in Starbucks studying, and I never thought I missed a minute of time. And then I was able to really perform well on my test. I was just having a good time. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I think because of that, I was able to be really successful. And so I'm very thankful for that.
Yes, and that is an amazing acknowledgement when you are in a space like what I'm hearing you say. When you're in a space and you just realize that it's right, it's a good fit. It's connecting with the part of you that you really had not identified before. It awakened a part of you that was kind of sleeping. And so that is amazing.
And I think, sometimes we look at our circumstances or our background, and we don't allow ourselves to see sort of where we're supposed to be in the future. We sort of get stuck in this place of where we are now. And I think that's what I was struggling with initially, and why I didn't go ahead and apply to medical school. I just assumed I wouldn't get in. I'm not the type of student that would go to medical school for various reasons. And once I got over that, and having, a positive partner really helped me, I was able to really see my full potential, and I think that's also really important. As I was going through the program, I did have to protect myself and really ensure that I surrounded myself with positive individuals that understood my mission and understood the plan and would support me in that. And I think that's something we all have to believe and understand. And it was one of my pastors mentioned one time that you really have to be careful who you allow to sit in the front seat of your life. And that's exactly what I did. So I only surrounded myself with those that were really positive and believed in me, especially now with child and going through medical school.
Absolutely. And even sometimes you have to trim the fat a little bit. So,
Yes.
Sometimes people struggle with your own growth, and they're just unable, for whatever reason, to survive the journey. And it's okay. You can wish them well, but you, like you said, you can empower yourself by not allowing everyone a front seat.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now that you are a physician, and by the way, I was your first patient. I was
That's right.
So
That's right.
Yeah, you delivered my daughter when you were actually in medical school.
Yeah,
so
my second year.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, that was such a special. I remember finishing I think it was my microbiology exam, and exhausted from studying all night, and I was like, ran to the hospital and just couldn't wait.
Just in time.
I know it was. It was
like
perfect.
a movie.
It was perfect.
Just in time. So So my OB, he knew that you were a medical student, and he said, "Hey, do you want to deliver her?" So you did, and that was a very special moment. I'm always very proud to say that, that I was your first patient. So anyhow, here we are. One of the things that I know happens, at least for myself and other women I've talked to, as we go through our journey and we identify who we are, and we know that you connect with your compassion and being of service, and you have these tools now, and you're utilizing your gifts through giving, helping women give life, and and also nurturing their reproductive health, and helping them through the process of being a young woman to an aging woman to an older woman. So you deal with the whole spectrum. How do you see yourself? Do you, sometimes we get caught up in identifying to the job as opposed to identifying with who we are. Do you understand what I mean? So you might be an OBGYN,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, how would you define what you're offering women when they come to your practice?
Hmm. Well, I definitely approach my practice from more of a holistic angle. And so I do, especially, for example, teenage girls, they'll come to see me, and it may be for birth control or, something a little more personal. I always take a moment to talk to them about their life and their goals. Um, and just helping them to understand that I'm a woman just like they are, and I'm here, and I'm open, and they can talk to me about anything, so they know they have a safe place to go. So it's definitely more than just that office visit that's my concern at that time. It's really, not today, but where are you going to be 50 years from now, and making sure they see themselves for the beautiful woman that they are. And I think coming from me, as their physician and being young still, I think they do take that, because I can tell by the way they look, that they really do appreciate that, and they hear me. I'm sure their mothers or aunts may have told them the same thing, but, having a different persona to give them that, I think they do take that. So I do take my role very seriously when it comes to that, because I think, if we make a bad decision, it can affect your life for a while, or makes it more difficult for sure. So I try to make that a teachable moment, as often as I can.
Mm-hmm. So you're able to, connect with them on an individual level,
Mm-hmm.
and also use that as an opportunity to encourage and minister to them in some way.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to switch gears just a tiny bit. What would you say has been one of your greatest challenges along your journey, and how did you overcome it?
So there's actually two things that come to mind. One occurred while I was in my residency training. So I started my residency program out of state in Nevada, and at that time, it's kind of a complicated story, but my husband ended up getting a job in Los Angeles. So we moved to Vegas, bought a house there, and he ended up having to commute every weekend. He would drive 3 hours back and forth. So it was definitely difficult seeing him have to make that drive. He was really tired. And also the family dynamics of our home, now having our 5-year-old and, me being in residency. So that was really difficult. And then we moved to Sacramento, where I completed my residency. And the same thing, he was still working in Los Angeles and making the commute. But one thing that I think helped us all hold it all together was really the commitment that we had for our family and our goals. And definitely my husband, I have to really give honor to him and how committed he was to seeing me fulfill my dream. We always, lived comfortably, never really wanted for anything, and I was always in a position to do my very best when it came to my studies and performing on my in all of my rotations. And we ensured that our son also had the best schools to go to, and very comfortable setting, and his environment was very stable. So I think, something like that could definitely be difficult for families to endure. And having a strong man like my husband to be there to really be our rock to help us through, just remarkable. So I'm thankful for that. But it was difficult nonetheless. It was definitely difficult. And my struggle now, just being a mother and a physician and a wife, I continue to work on the challenge of work-life balance, which I think all of us do as women. I'm very fortunate with my current position as a physician, I do have the type of schedule where I'm guaranteed at least one day off during the week, and I am off on most weekends. So it allows me to fulfill the prayer that I pray every night, that I am the best wife, mother, and physician in that order each day. So it's not easy, and sometimes I do have to sacrifice myself at times, but I do try to ensure that I do find time for myself and I exercise, but that I'm there for my family and there for my job as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. So it's so I'm hearing you say it kind of taps into something that I spoke about on my first episode, which was what real life looks like. Mm-hmm. So you're describing a real life scenario where people may look at you and your life and say, wow, she has it all. She's beautiful, and she's beautiful. She's beautiful and smart, and she has beautiful kids. Like, the kids look like models, and they have a beautiful home, and they just have it all. And she's just, there's just no challenge and no problem. And that's not real life, real. Right? Not so real life was that you had to kind of make some compromises, some sacrifices along the way. And what I'm hearing you say is that you did it all for the benefit of the unit, the yes. benefit of the family unit.
Right. Absolutely.
So important. And kudos to your husband for being that supporting factor. That is so important. Like, mm-hmm. when we are able to have that as women, having that support can take you from mile 1 to mile 59. Like, yep. And work-life balance.
Yes.
That is an ongoing struggle for many of us. And I think that what happens is when we see someone looking in from the outside, we don't acknowledge the exchange that person is actually making. Mm-hmm. So there's an actual exchange that takes place where you're working and you're benefiting from the career, but you can't be here and there simultaneously. So you're having to exchange time from one place to the other. And so there has to be the balance you're talking about is being, where do you sit? Where do you feel comfortable giving, with your exchange? And it's different for every woman. There's no right or wrong answer, right. But it has to resonate with you and what you feel comfortable with and how that exchange is being made for you. And so once you become uncomfortable, then it's time to make a shift.
Make a change. Absolutely.
So, it's ever changing. Mm-hmm. So, one day it might be, the exchange makes sense in this, facet with this amount of time. And then the next day, it evolves depending on, a variety of different circumstances. So, well, thank you so much for coming to my show and sharing Absolutely. Your story and your journey. And I really know that other women in general are going to benefit from hearing from you and understanding that you meaning them, us, we, mm-hmm. can really transpire and achieve our goals just by paying attention to those omens,
yes,
persevering, not running away from the challenge, and just surrounding ourselves with supportive people.
Absolutely.
And keeping that spiritual connection.
Yes.
Those are the things I heard from you.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Power 365 Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. I believe that every woman gifts the universe with her own strengths and unique characteristics. Simply because she is born, the universe benefits. Every woman is growing, learning, and evolving. On this channel, only positive seeds are sown, no matter how flawed the soil. Take care and have a phenomenal Wednesday.